While most American families stress over college admissions, the wealthiest are already thinking in a completely different direction. They're using AI tutors to personally educate their children through systems that adapt in real time to exactly how each child learns. Meet AlphaForge Prep, a platform letting affluent families sidestep traditional classrooms entirely. Instead of a teacher in a crowded room, these kids get an AI tutor that learns their strengths, their weak spots, and their learning style, then adjusts every lesson on the fly. Here's what's shocking. Wealthy families using these systems report their children learning 2 to 3 years ahead of their grade level. Meanwhile, regular American schools have class sizes of 25 to 35 students per teacher. Think of an AI tutor like having a world-class basketball coach, except it never sleeps, never gets tired, and it learns exactly how you think every single day. The system watches what works and what doesn't, then constantly refines itself. But here's the profound part. As AI tutors become the exclusive tool of affluent families, we are witnessing education inequality accelerate in real time. The gap between rich and poor education isn't just widening anymore, it's entering a completely new era where AI itself becomes the dividing line. Story of AI education starts with a straightforward problem. Traditional schools haven't fundamentally changed their model in over a century. You've got classrooms of 25 to 35 students, one teacher trying to manage everyone, and a curriculum designed for the average student. The system moves forward regardless of who's fallen behind or who's ready for the next level. For wealthy families, this is unacceptable. They've always had alternatives: private schools, human tutors, test prep coaches, but AI tutors represent something entirely different. They're instantly available, perfectly personalized, and they scale in ways humans never could. A top-tier human tutor costs $50 to $100 per hour, and you maybe get 5 to 10 hours weekly. An AI tutor costs a fraction of that and works around the clock. But the real appeal isn't convenience or cost. It's the promise that your child never has to fit into a system. Instead, the system adapts completely to your child. This fantasy is driving adoption among wealthy families. They're not just buying education, they are buying customization, they're buying advantage, and they're buying the belief that their child will never be held back by 30 other kids in one room. And this is where the story gets complicated. How do AI tutors actually work? Let's break it down. Every time a student answers a question, right or wrong, the system records exactly what happened. It tracks which concepts the student understands, which ones confuse them, how long processing takes, and what learning style suits them best. Machine learning algorithms build a detailed model of that specific child. Then the system generates the next lesson based on that model. If you struggled with fractions yesterday, today's lesson is entirely about fractions, pitched exactly at your level. Not too easy, not too hard. It's like having a tutor who's been watching you for months and knows exactly where to push. The AI never gets frustrated, never tires, never has an off day. It runs analysis in seconds. What takes a human tutor hours to understand, the AI knows immediately. This is why wealthy families are convinced these systems work, because they genuinely do adapt faster and more completely than any human could. But there's a philosophical question underneath. What happens when learning becomes perfectly optimized? What's lost when a child never experiences struggle, never fails, never fights through difficulty? That's what educators are starting to worry about. Here's what it looks like in practice. A 13-year-old girl named Sarah is working through advanced calculus. She misses a derivative problem. The AI doesn't just mark it wrong, it backtracks and discovers she misunderstands the concept of limits, the foundation derivatives sit on. Instead of pushing forward, the system rebuilds her foundation. 2 days later, she's ready for calculus. That's one scenario. Here's another. A boy learning Mandarin Chinese. The system notices he struggles with tonal differences, so it builds lessons isolating tone from vocabulary. His listening comprehension jumps from 40% to 85% in 3 weeks. A traditional teacher with 25 students can't offer that precision. The AI never runs out of patience either. A child can ask the same question 100 times, and the AI answers it 100 times with a smile or the digital equivalent. No shame, no judgment, no pressure, because the system knows exactly what this child understands. It pitches new material right at the edge of their knowledge, where learning happens fastest. This is powerful education technology, but here's what makes it complicated. It's only available to families who can afford it. Let's compare the real options. A world-class human tutor costs somewhere between $150 and $300 per hour. You might access them 5 to 10 hours weekly if you're wealthy. An AI tutor costs roughly $5 to $20 monthly, available anytime. Here's the comparison that matters. A human tutor brings personality, real-world stories, and inspiration that only a person can deliver. An AI tutor brings something humans can't match: perfect patience, unlimited explanations, and optimization at scale. A human tutor gets tired, forgets what confused you last week, has good and bad days. An AI tutor learns from every interaction and applies that instantly. For parents doing the math, the choice becomes obvious: better results for 1/10 the cost. Traditional public schools exist in a completely different universe. Average American classrooms have around 25 students with one teacher. That teacher has maybe 5 minutes of individual attention per child daily. Not a criticism, teachers work heroic hours under impossible constraints. That's just math. AI tutors never split attention between 30 kids. They give full focus to each child, completely customized, available all day. This comparison reveals something uncomfortable about education's future. The real problem isn't that AI education works, it's that it only works for the wealthy. Here's the uncomfortable truth: education already determines which kids reach elite universities, which kids get high-income careers, and which kids build networks that last their entire lives. Now AI tutors are making that advantage exponential instead of just significant. When wealthy kids learn years ahead using these systems, they're not just winning school, they're entering college with educational foundations that middle-class kids literally can't match. The achievement gap isn't just widening anymore, it's fracturing into completely separate tracks. One track for kids with AI tutors, another for everyone else. Teachers watching this are understandably nervous, wondering if their career is becoming obsolete. Policymakers haven't caught up yet. There's no regulation, no equity discussion, no real plan to make this accessible to everyone instead of just affluent families. Some experts predict AI tutors will eventually replace human teachers entirely. Others argue great teachers will specialize in things AI can't replicate. That's a fascinating debate happening in slow motion while the technology moves at light speed. Meanwhile, another academic year has passed, and the advantage compounds for wealthy kids again. Here's the specific thing that troubles educators most about this. If you're a parent considering AI tutoring, here's what you need to know. First, these systems work best for students who respond well to self-directed learning and don't need human motivation. Some kids thrive with instant feedback. Others need human connection to stay engaged. That's not a flaw, it's different strengths. Second, privacy matters. AI companies collect detailed data about how your child learns, what struggles them, their pace, their thinking patterns. That data is valuable. Understand what the company does with it. Third, AI tutors work best as supplements, not replacements for all education. The strongest outcomes combine AI for focused skill building, math, languages, specific subjects, with human teachers and peer learning. Fourth, consider costs. Yes, AI tutors are cheaper per hour than humans, but they require a device, internet, and consistent student commitment. Finally, remember these systems are designed for children whose parents have already decided education is priority and can afford investment. For families without that flexibility, these tools remain out of reach. That's the equity problem nobody's solving. So here's what's happening right now, and here's what it means for you. Wealthy families are using AI to create a completely separate education system, one that's better, faster, more personalized, and increasingly exclusive. That's already changing who gets access to the kind of education that builds elite careers. This isn't some distant future scenario. This is happening now, in 2026, while public schools are still fighting for funding and hiring enough teachers. The technology is genuinely powerful, but power without access creates injustice. And right now, AI tutors are creating a world where your family's wealth directly determines how much educational advantage you can buy. The question isn't whether AI is good at teaching. It clearly is. The question is, Do we want a world where the best education is available only to those who can afford it? That's the conversation we need to have before this technology becomes so embedded that changing it becomes impossible. Watch for policy discussions about AI in education. Push for equity solutions. Demand that policymakers think about how to make these tools accessible, not just profitable. The future of education is being built right now, and decisions made today will echo for decades.